Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Nicole Hegel, and I am a Tai Chi instructor that works up here in Boone, North Carolina. And I work here regionally as well as working directly with Healthy Aging NC to help host online and virtual classes. I also serve as a senior trainer for the Tai Chi for Health Institute and just help to try to be a liaison and a bit of a leader in our Tai Chi community across the state. So if you ever have any Tai Chi related questions, feel free to reach out to me. As you all know, this is a webinar about how to become a host site for some of our online virtual programs. I'm going to be co-presenting today with Taylor, and I'm going to give her a chance to introduce herself in just a moment. But I just wanted to welcome everyone, and again, just thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Taylor?
Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, my name is Taylor Perret. I'm the evidence-based program specialist at Healthy Aging NC. So all things evidence-based programs. I help with the data collection, all of that. If you have questions or need technical assistance, how to become a leader, all of that, I can help you with that. But with that, we will get started. So some of you may be familiar with Healthy Aging NC, but for those of you that are not, Healthy Aging NC is an initiative of the North Carolina Center for Health and Wellness, which is housed at UNC Asheville. And we are the statewide resource center for evidence-based health programs, connecting people to the programs and agencies that improve community health, increase the capacity of providers, maintaining our website with program information and registration, and then collecting and analyzing data to report results. So some of you may be familiar with evidence-based programs, but these are proven ways to promote health and prevent disease. They are based on research and provide documented health benefits. And many evidence-based programs allow for the efficient use of available community resources since they use trained lay leaders or coaches. So some of the immediate benefits of evidence-based programs, these programs are addressing specific health problems and goals for people with ongoing health conditions. Participants are able to choose their own goals and track their own progress. And then there's the support and social interaction piece with peers who are also living with ongoing health conditions. And then the trained lay leaders offer their guidance and support, but ultimately participants find practical solutions individually and with each other. So these are the programs that are supported by Healthy Aging NC. First, we have the Chronic Disease Self-Management Suite, which includes chronic disease, chronic pain, and diabetes self-management. This one can be offered virtually, and there are some virtual leader opportunities coming up. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me and I'll point you in the right direction. We have Tai Chi for arthritis and fall prevention, which is what we'll talk mostly about today. And then A Matter of Balance, which is another fall prevention program. Walk with Ease, Pearls, Enhanced Fitness, and Health Coaching. And I can go into more detail about these if you all are interested at the end as well.
Great. So as Taylor has already mentioned, we're mostly going to talk about Tai Chi for arthritis and fall prevention today. And that is because that's really the evidence-based health promotion program that we are offering that lends itself to be offered on this virtual platform as well as in these remote group sites. So hopefully you're familiar with at least some, if not all, of the other evidence-based health promotions that are offered. And if you're not, again, if you want to learn more, reach out to us. But you may also have local instructors, so being able to offer some of those classes in your own communities. So, but of course, we're trying to expand access and invite new communities, new partners into our classes. So Tai Chi, again, tends to be one of the easier programs to offer in this format. So if you're not familiar with what Tai Chi is, or if your knowledge is limited, the program we offer is called Tai Chi for arthritis and falls prevention. And it's traditional Tai Chi, but with a little bit more of a modern twist. The program director is a medical physician out of Australia, as well as a Tai Chi expert. And he's basically taken both of his worlds of expertise and combine them into creating these Tai Chi forms that are really health specific. And so we know that they are modified for safety, and they have been proven to be effective. Another benefit of the Tai Chi for arthritis and fall prevention programs is that we have a very specific teaching method that we offer our Tai Chi through. And so just the ability for students to understand, but also retain the information and be able to practice on their own and grow with the program has been really a nice key benefit, and maybe a little bit different than some other Tai Chi classes. Again, this program is modified for health, so it really is suitable for just about anyone, no matter what their physical or mental capacities could be. There's always a place for you, if not one specific class and another. So it really is very open to any and all abilities. Tai Chi has numerous health benefits. I would say some of the key health benefits that we know from research is that it helps us breathe better, it helps us relax, works on our posture, builds strength, and it builds balance. So that is some of the reasons why we have had so much success offering this program as a falls prevention intervention, but also it just gets you moving, and the movements are slow and gentle. So they're fairly easy to follow, and they're also great for somebody who is living with arthritis or other chronic conditions. We have lots of the movements are pretty simple and fairly easy to follow, but there's actually a lot of depth in our Tai Chi program. So I often say that simple is not always easy. So again, that's another key aspect that helps people stay interested in the program. We build social connections. This is easy to see when we have in-person classes, but it's absolutely something that we're able to create through a virtual online platform, and we see it over and over again. So it's a little bit of a different process to build that community and foster it, but it absolutely is there, and I think is a very powerful side effect and benefit of these programs. I'm going to talk about a seated Tai Chi for arthritis as well as a standing Tai Chi for arthritis and falls prevention class. But regardless of which one we're referring to, those classes are offered either once or twice a week for typically an hour-long session. Seated is a little bit shorter. And then our goal is to try to get participants to join the classes for at least 11 sessions. That's where we know, just through research, that the real benefits happen at that level. So the two that we are offering, I mentioned seated Tai Chi for arthritis, as well as what I would call standing Tai Chi for arthritis and falls prevention. We are offering both of these classes through a virtual program, or excuse me, a virtual delivery system. But I want to kind of explain the differences of some of these programs, or of these two programs. So seated Tai Chi for arthritis is just that. It's Tai Chi where we teach it seated. And I would argue that this is a really great class for virtual groups because it is so inclusive. And because we're seated, we're not as worried about safety monitoring as we would in a standing program. And so we can really open up the registration pretty broadly and invite both group sites as well as individuals from home to come join the program. And again, it's very accessible. If you're in a wheelchair, if you have limited mobility, then it's a great class for you to just, again, help improve your breathing, gentle movement. We're still working on strength. I would argue we're still working on balance, arthritis management, and building those social connections. And then Tai Chi for arthritis and falls prevention is what I would call more of our standing class, where we do teach it standing. And the reason I'm using quotations is because you can certainly modify for seated. So if you would like to participate in that class and start seated, progress into standing, or take seated breaks, again, we would welcome you. Both classes are going to be progressive. So what I mean by that is that we'll learn one movement, and then we would add on another movement in a following session, and then we would add in another movement in a session after that, and we would build. So there's building blocks in our Tai Chi progression. And why we're offering it that way is because not only do we want to get people physically moving, but we want people to use their brains as well and work on some of our cognitive benefits that we're probably getting out of these classes. So we want to help people kind of work on that memory as well. The Tai Chi for arthritis and fall prevention class, what we're calling like our standing class, we are absolutely open to helping or having group sites join us. But, and we're going to get into this, I believe, in the next slide. Our requirements for being able to see your group from head to toe is a little bit more stringent. We can be a bit more relaxed with seated, but for standing, we really need to be able to see people from all the way from their feet to the top of their head, and that's for safety. And because of that, our numbers for that class are more limited. So seated, again, we can be pretty broad with how many sites and individuals we welcome into the class. With the standing, we have to be more limited, again, because the safety monitoring is just more stringent. Next slide, please. So why become a host site? You know, again, I mentioned this before, we want to increase access to these programs. There are lots and lots of health promotion leaders across the state, but we know we're not everywhere. And for instance, with the Tai Chi program, I know that we're not in every community. So this is an opportunity to really be more inclusive across the state. I think it's also a really wonderful way for host sites that may be like less traditional in our older adult communities, maybe such as libraries or parks and rec centers, to become host sites and help offer some of these health promotion programs that we have traditionally seen more in senior centers. But of course, we would welcome senior centers or any partner to these classes as well. It's an efficient use of resources. You know, we're able to reach a lot more people through this manner, again, without having somebody physically there. And I mentioned this before, we build community. There's that social connection. So, you know, we offer these classes for individuals at home, and we try to build those social connections through Zoom, but obviously we still have that computer screen in between us. So if we can have a host site where people are physically getting together in real life in person, and then joining an instructor via Zoom, then that is just even a stronger connection and opportunity to make new friendships, perhaps make plans to participate in other activities together. It helps obviously diversify our client base. You know, we want to be as inclusive as humanly possible with these classes. So we want to reach everyone, no matter who they are. And then again, we just want to help make our communities stronger and healthier and help prevent any type of potential injuries or disease in our communities. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of our requirements and expectations. So, you know, we are grant funded, and we want to make sure that when we're offering these classes that we can record the information that needs to be collected to report to our grantors so we can extend our funding and continue to offer these great programs across the state. So we do use an online system, and we are trying to track basically everything we can electronically. So when you're a group site, what we ask is that you are able to, either your participants are able to do this on their own, or you are able to assist them with this process where you would actually individually register them. And I'm going to show you at the end of this presentation what that looks like. We would obviously need you to have Zoom capabilities, so having a space that's appropriate for the class with a webcam and a screen that would be large enough for your participants to view. Hopefully you have an ability to have a microphone, so as well as speakers, so you can hear us and we can hear you and your participants. We do ask that there is, excuse me, somebody in the room, whether it's a staff or volunteer, that's in the room for safety in case of an emergency. And I think that would be appropriate for any type of class you would offer. But also, you know, I would think of this person as somebody who could type into the Zoom chat if needed, or, you know, assist with technical assistance if something just seemed a little bit off. So, you know, wanting to make sure that we're just setting everybody up for success there. Attendance tracking, that's really quite a biggie. You know, we hope that we have a lot of group sites that want to join some of these classes, especially seated, because again, we can offer it to so many different sites, but it's very hard for us to have a grasp of how many people are participating without having an attendance record. So the easiest way that Taylor and I can think of tracking this is on a daily basis. When your group signs into Zoom, if somebody can be responsible for typing the participants' names into the chat box. And then that way we can go ahead and take attendance on our end right then and there. If you're not able to do that for some reason, you're welcome to email us the list. Hopefully that same day, maybe while the class is happening or right after. Again, so we can keep our daily attendance records. That's really quite vital for us to be able to make sure that we are collecting the proper data to keep our funding going. Our classes do come with some online surveys as well. So this is why it's helpful for us, or really required, to register participants on an individual basis, because when we send out a pre and a post survey, it can go directly to them. And we'll talk about if they don't have email, we can talk about some ways that we can kind of get around that. But really all of this would be done through the participant's email. It would be an electronic survey that would come to them, and then they would fill it out online, hit submit, and it's really quite straightforward. And then just having communication. So if you're a site that registers with our programs, you know, just please be responsive when we ask questions, and ask questions of us. So, you know, if we don't hear from you, we will probably badger you more than you might want for surveys and attendance logs. But we just ask that you're responsive with us. And again, I think it's a win-win. I feel like we are definitely offering some good value to our communities, and having that back and forth communication is super helpful for us. Taylor, is there anything that I've missed or you would like to add in this regard?
I think that you covered it great. Yeah, I think there's just communication. As long as we, you know, have a good relationship and can communicate back and forth to each other, whether it is for attendance or surveys or anything else that you all might need, we want to be able to help you. So.
Excellent. Thank you. So I think I'm going to take y'all through a demo. Taylor, unless you want to do it, you probably need to stop sharing, and then I can share mine. But let's pause for a moment. And we've covered a fair amount of information fairly quickly, and I want to take an opportunity to answer any questions that might be there right now.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Tracy.
How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I do have a question about this seated Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
So is it included under the Home and Community Care Block Grant Title 3D as a program to be funded?
So
going back and forth with this, and I hear different answers.
Yeah. Sure. So let me explain the best way that I know, and let me know if this isn't clear, just ask. So we can pay out of our Title 3D funds for instructor training for seated, because it is considered a tool that we can use in our standing classes. But because the funder for that particular funding source, right, the NCOA and the Administration on Community Living, they are looking at that class as a fall prevention intervention. So they want to see people standing. So it can be used for instructor training, but it cannot be used solely to offer a class. So what I mean by that is, with Title 3D funds, we cannot offer a seated only Tai Chi class. We can offer it as a modification or a progression if people need to start seated and move into standing. Now, the CDC funds that we are receiving through Healthy Aging NC, that is what is funding the seated only virtual class. So that is the difference. It is a different funding source.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, but
Okay.
I did hear you say that the Title 3D can pay for instructor training for modification for the seated.
That is correct.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see, I see a couple of questions in the chat. And Deborah, no, we did not send out any kind of certificates for the seated program. I'll be honest with you that because the nature of that program, because we open it pretty much to anyone and everyone, we have so many participants that it would be challenging for us to issue those. Also, I'll be honest, it was difficult for us to get attendance records sent in. So it was hard for us to get a true handle of who all was attending each session, which is, why we're really trying to stress just a little bit better communication, or strong communication, I should say, getting daily attendance records. And offered in Spanish. So that is a wonderful question. And Taylor, I may pass that to you.
Okay. Yeah. Some of the CDSME suite classes, so chronic pain self-management and chronic disease self-management, are offered in Spanish. There's a Spanish leader training and guidebooks, as well as Walk with Ease. I will say we have not offered that in Spanish in the past because we haven't trained any Spanish speaking leaders, but we would love to do that if that opportunity came up. Walk with Ease is also a little bit different because Walk with Ease can be offered 3 different ways. So the first being the traditional, you have a trained leader, you meet with your group 3 times a week, etc. Or the participants themselves can register individually through a portal, and they can receive a participant guidebook and do the program individually. So that is also offered in Spanish. And then there's kind of a mix of the two where it's kind of called self-directed, where your group starts at the same time, but you're not necessarily meeting 3 times a week. So that's a long way to say that, yes, they can be offered in Spanish, but we haven't in the past because we haven't had Spanish speaking leaders. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, that was definitely a great question. Well, I had another question in the chat about becoming an instructor in Tai Chi. So to become a trained instructor, there is a certification process that happens through our network of master trainers. And so you can find that schedule and listing on the Tai Chi for Health Institute website, which I just typed into the chat. So it's tchi.org. Typically in North Carolina, we have been working with a woman named Megan Bryant, who's out of Virginia. And she comes down into North Carolina usually a few times a year and will offer instructor training as well as recertification. And there is instructor trainings in seated Tai Chi for arthritis, Tai Chi for arthritis falls prevention. And then there's actually a part 2. So it's Tai Chi for arthritis and falls prevention part 2. And what's kind of nice about that whole suite is there's an opportunity for people to progress, for participants to progress through their Tai Chi and really build skills and have longevity with the program. You can also find virtual trainings, so it doesn't have to be in person. We are allowed to do trainings through that virtual platform as well. But no matter whether it's in person or virtual, there is a self-paced online study that you have to do. So you do that first. That's kind of the first component of your instructor training. And then once you finish that and get the certificate of completion, then you would send that to the master trainer that you're working with, and you would participate in either their online or their face-to-face in person. So we'll call that the in-person portion. And then the recertification is every 2 years. And there is also an annual board fee, which is about $25. And that just kind of pays for your instructor license with the Tai Chi Institute. Let me pause for a moment to just look at the chat box. Great question about seated as a hybrid. So I'm really glad you asked. So we have the seated program that we have coming up that I'll be leading personally is exactly that. So I will actually physically be in the Watauga County Library with some folks in the room with me, but then we'll be live streaming the Zoom to hopefully many of your group sites or individuals at home. And Taylor will be on the Zoom with me as well, just helping with managing the Zoom and technology. So that's a really great question. So yes, absolutely. Is there a fee? So a fee for participating in the classes? No, there is no fee. So we are, because of our grant funding, we are able to offer these classes to the community at no cost to you. So we don't want to say free, but at no cost to you. Participants are always welcome to make donations to Healthy Aging or to their local area agency on aging, but there's no fee. Let's see here.
I can address April's question. That's a really great question. I think we're connected, so I can maybe shoot you an email after this to kind of go through the options to address that, if that's okay.
Okay. Thank you, Taylor. And then fee for instructor training. Yes, there is a fee for instructor training. So depending on, there may be some local funding available to you depending on your area agency on aging or possibly Parks and Rec. I don't know, because I can't speak for everyone across the state because everyone is a little bit different. I know here in Boone, our area agency on aging will help support the training cost for Tai Chi for arthritis and falls prevention. But again, that is not statewide. That is only in our 7 counties. So I would encourage you to reach out to your local area agency on aging. And then we have some who will pay directly, or we may have some who maybe work directly with their senior center, and the senior center helps pay for the training. So everybody's a little bit different. Training costs, I believe, are, I gotta think about this for a moment. I think they're getting ready to increase their pricing just a little bit, but I would expect to be somewhere with everything, with training materials, that self-paced online training, the online piece that I mentioned, probably somewhere around $400. So, but don't quote me on that. It's a little bit different based on your master trainer. If you go on to taichiforhealthinstitute.org, you will see that the pricing can be a little bit different. They are trying to align that a little bit better, so there's no question that everywhere in the United States would be the same. But right now, that's still just in some conversations. Let's see here. Is there seated Tai Chi scheduled soon? So there is a class for participants coming up that will start Monday the 9th, and I'm going to share a little bit more about that in just a second. But if you're interested in becoming a seated Tai Chi instructor, we do have an instructor training happening here in Boone on November 14th. So you should be able to find that on the Tai Chi for Health Institute website as well. Okay, well, let me screen share, and thank you for these questions. Keep popping them in the chat. Let me share my screen. I just want to walk you all through what it looks like. Sorry, bear with me. What it looks like to go through the registration process and to find a class online. So we could share individual registration links, but I think it's maybe most helpful to show you sort of where to go from the homepage. So actually, I'm going to do this slightly different. I'm going to go to Healthy Aging NC. So if you go to Healthy Aging NC's website, and hopefully you're familiar with this website. If not, check it out. There's lots of wonderful resources, more information about all of our classes. If you go to Explore Programs, this is going to take you to.
I think it's still for me. Sorry, Nicole. It's for at least for me. It's still on the slideshow tab.
Going okay. Sorry. Let me try this again. Thank you for letting me know. All right. Well, I'll do it this way. Okay. Are you seeing the homepage now?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Healthy Aging NC, if you go to Explore Programs, it will direct you to a map as well as a listing of all of the classes that we are familiar with or that have been kind of notified to Taylor across the state. So this isn't going to include anything that's happening locally or virtually. So it is a lot, but you know, it's a great place to find classes. So I'm going to just go ahead and type in virtual, and then I'm going to go ahead and see what I can find on our virtual listing. And I apologize, my computer is dreadfully slow today. Okay, so you can see that we have a handful of virtual classes that are being offered. Virtual seated Tai Chi for arthritis. I want to kind of show you how to register for that. And again, that would be universal really for any program. Well, actually, let me just take you through this one. So virtual seated for Tai Chi for arthritis. So again, we are going to be starting this program on Monday, September 9th. So if you have a site who maybe you're interested in becoming a group site, I would definitely encourage you to register for this class, get folks excited, and join us. So each individual would go to this link to the virtual class, and then they would register here. And we can send you this direct registration link if that's easier for you. Just let us know. And this is going to basically just tell me the schedule of the class. It's going to give me a brief description, tell me where it is. So it's virtual, so obviously it's online. If it was in person, it would tell me where I would be going for those classes. I'm going to just go ahead and register myself. I'm going to actually use a different email. Okay, so it did register me, and it actually should have, I tested this earlier. I'm wondering if this is what happened, but it actually should have taken me to a second page where I would complete some demographic information, just my address and my emergency contact, which is really what's more important. But then it will give me an email confirming that I have been registered, and it will give me the Zoom link.
I'll jump in for a second, Nicole, while you're pulling
Please
that up, but about that form. So especially for these virtual classes that we're talking about, there is an extra form in addition to the pre and post where we are collecting like emergency contact information is kind of first and foremost, because if we're having host sites or we have virtual people or people that are coming virtually individually, then it's important for us to have that emergency contact. So there would be technically 3 forms for that: the emergency contact, and then the pre-form and the post survey. So that would be those 3.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, so there was another question about training. So yes, seated Tai Chi for arthritis, and then our traditional standing Tai Chi for arthritis and falls prevention. Those are 2 different trainings and certifications. Again, there has been some discussion about adding seated into the standard training, but that as of now, they are 2 separate trainings. Additionally, if you wanted to teach the Tai Chi for arthritis and fall prevention part 2, that is also an additional certification. And the reason for that is because it really is different skill sets, it's different movements, it's different techniques, and the Institute just wants to make sure that their instructors really have a solid handle on all of those details and differences in the movements to properly teach the forms. So we do have some upcoming classes. I already mentioned we have seated Tai Chi for arthritis starting Monday, September 9th. That will be from 10 to 10:45 a.m. And we would welcome any and every site that would like to participate, as well as individuals at home. So if you have folks that you think might want to join from home, feel free to share this information. At this point, there's no cap on registration. So, again, feel free to join us. If you're not quite sure, or if you have a group that's not quite sure, I am going to be hosting an intro to Tai Chi for arthritis on, sorry, I wrote my notes down here, on Tuesday, September 3rd at 12 o'clock. And so you would be welcome to join that as a group site or as an individual. Again, you can register for that on Healthy Aging NC. That will be in the program listing. And then we also have another standing Tai Chi for arthritis and falls prevention class starting later in September, but I just checked on our registration and that class is already full. But we have at least 3 more classes, I believe, happening in 2025. So if you have a group who might be interested in joining one of those programs, go ahead and get registered, because they do fill, because our we are limited in how many spots we can offer. So I think that concludes the information we wanted to share. I hope this has been helpful. Again, please feel free to reach out with questions. And if you have any others you want to type into the chat box, we will leave the call open for just a few more minutes. And I'm going to just share my screen one last time so you see our emails as well. Maybe. Yeah.
And we can always share these slides too with you all if that's helpful in the recording.
MTB. Okay. Well, then I thank everyone. Oh, we have another question. Hold on one second. Class meets Mondays and Wednesdays at 10. Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Another time, I hope. Or even if you want to join the intro class, if you have folks who are just maybe interested in learning more about Tai Chi. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and end our recording.
And if you're interested in other programs